Hello everybody, it's Aaran, back from Screenstars, and I'm here once again to do another review for Geek Legion of Doom. And today I'm here to review the 2018 horror film Marla, otherwise known as MAE, a film that is written, directed and starring Lisa Van Damme Bates, who plays the lead character MAE. Now this is a film that focuses on this character MAE, who has a medical procedure, an IUD procedure, and it's an under the table procedure done to her by a close friend, someone who she describes in the film as someone she considers to be her brother, someone she grew up with but isn't actually a blood relative. So she trusts this person very much, and the best way to describe this film is, after she has this procedure, anyone who she has a close sexual relationship with, or basically anyone she has sex with, the consequences for that person are disastrous, to say the least. And as the film goes on, there is a slow realization that something obviously is not right with the procedure that has been undertaken, and she investigates what is going on. All in the while, there is a police detective closely monitoring her and her activities, because they suspect something is going on. Also, right, this film, I think, it's clearly a low budget horror film, and there are times in this film where that is strikingly so, and by that mainly with some of the performances. Some of the performances here are quite stilted. The performance that stands out here is actually Lisa Van Damme Bates as MAE, who delivers, a pretty impressive performance for a film like this. She portrays her character's shock and distress pretty well. I mean, you could imagine some of the things that this character goes through in this film are pretty distressing, to say the least. And I kind of undersold it when I said that the consequences for anybody she has sex with are pretty disastrous. That's quite an understatement, actually. It's horrific what happens to these people that she has sex with, and it's clearly linked to this procedure that she's had, but she doesn't understand how. So therefore, she tries to investigate this person, the doctor who undertook this procedure, to find out what is going on. The pacing of this film, I think, will put some people off. However, the film that it's clearly influenced by, It Follows, if you actually watch that film as well, that film was actually very slow paced. I only watched that and reviewed that film quite recently myself for the channel, and after watching it again to review it for the channel, it reminded me actually how slow that film was in certain areas. But because it's so well written, and the idea and the tension building is so good in that film, you forgive it. And that's the one thing that lets this film down, that the bits in between, for the most part, drag a little bit, and the characters aren't interesting enough to keep that tension there. For example, the tension is always there and It Follows, because you know that potentially just around the corner that thing could be there that's following her. Here, the horror in this film, the horror is maintained when she has sex with someone, and it really is horrific what happens in that scenario. But as you can imagine, when she realizes what happens when she has sex, you're not going to willingly do it, so it doesn't happen frequently in the film. So the bits in between is filled with dialogue that's grounded and realistic for the most part, but delivered quite stilted by most of the characters. So it's going to struggle to hold your attention for the majority of the film. It's well made for a low budget film. It doesn't look, sound and feel particularly cheap. It's actually got a really quite indie look to it, a little bit like It Follows. It's got that that indie look and feel to the film, which I think helps it for certain. The one thing I didn't appreciate, and everybody's doing it now since Stranger Things, is this heavy synth soundtrack. And again, they followed it follows by doing that, but I don't think they needed to. I think by doing that, they're too closely identifying it itself to its closest competitor, which is It Follows, and that is clearly a far superior film. And I don't think they necessarily needed the retro soundtrack, because it's, didn't feel like it fit the film for me. I think it was just done because it's the trendy thing to do these days. So there are problems with this film, but it is not for the faint-hearted. The graphic scenes that we are subjected to when she has sex with people. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. It's an odd one to score because I think it will depend on the audience member watching it. So what I tend to do in situations like that is go right down the middle. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't love it, so I'm going straight down the middle, giving it 5 out of 10. But I do think there's an audience for a film like this, and it is quite unique, and in its own way quite an original horror film, because there's no supernatural elements to this, whereas It Follows had a supernatural element to it. This is a little bit more grounded. So thank you very much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the review, and we'll see you back on the channel for more reviews on Geek Legion of Doom.